Hello, everyone. This is the 239th session we have of Owl Freedom Teachings. This is a podcast where we sit and listen to a deep investigation, a non-mainstream investigation that we've done for 239 sessions. So there's 239 topics in our channels that you can listen to, you can view, watch, and understand and take the time. This is not a podcast where we go back and forth and just give it opinions and reactions, though sometimes that's entertaining. This is rather a deep dive into a specific investigation, and that is the Owl Freedom Teachings. Welcome, everyone. This is Julian Katari presenting, and we have Blue Heron Woman here with the investigation, which is the invisible web we live in, electromagnetism. So welcome, everyone. So that, yeah, we all know it's there. We can't see it. And you're going to tell us all about it, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's something that I think every single mystic, philosopher, anybody interested in deep information is going to be very interested about this topic.
Well, it's all there intuitively, but it's so the invisible web we live inside of. So right now, as we're doing nothing at all, we are being pushed, pulled, and held together and kept from falling through our chairs by something we cannot see, smell, or taste, and yet it is everywhere. And Christian people think it's a white male being somewhere in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
We're made of it. Our thoughts are running on it. The light reaching our eyes is a ripple in it. It has no weight, no color, no sound. Yet without it, there are no atoms, no molecules, no you, no me, no stars, no anything. What is it? It's the electromagnetic field. So we're going to now get to know this invisible web through physics that we have been living inside of our whole life without realizing it. That the Tao Te Ching has told us, the I Ching, the Hindus with Shiva and Shakti, the Tao Te Ching with yin and yang. We've been told, but we think it's all just woo-woo. And now physics is telling us about this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
So we've been living inside it without realizing it, and we actually think we're separate from it. And we will also get to know how everything we have ever seen, touched, felt, or experienced is electromagnetism, is the yin and the yang, the Shiva and the Shakti. We've all played with magnets and know they feel each other. Newton thought it was spooky and called it action at a distance. We've all rubbed balloons on our hair and stuck them to the wall and gone like, wow, how the fuck did we do that, right? Mm-hmm. Or we've drug our feet, our sock-ridden feet across the carpet so we can shock someone. And we call it static electricity, but it's actually the field. It's actually God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's bring it down to that for all the Christians. Every time you've drug your feet across the floor to shock someone, that's God. Right there. Right. So magnetism and electricity are two faces of the same phenomenon. What have we been saying for the last few weeks in the Taoist sexual arts about the dragon and the phoenix?
Mm-hmm.
So electromagnetism are the yin and the yang, the dragon and the phoenix. They're not separate. They're married. They are inseparable. And the thing that unites them is the field, the invisible presence. That field fills all of space. So let's go to the I Ching and say, understand the same thing. To understand our origin, we need to understand stillness or emptiness, which is precisely what Itzhak Bentov talked about. A void with neither light nor shadow, and the Chinese call this Wu-Ji. It means to have no limits, which is this presence is what's that empty space within the sleeping snake's coils. Those coils have tremendous potential. They could be a nest or strangulating muscle, but they're a circle enclosing an empty center, here future, waiting to explode. That's what God is. It's not a two-legged white male being in the sky. It's this midnight silence, the quiet that falls with snow. The quietness is not the cessation of everything. It's the origin, the source of the day. So the Wu-Ji is essential stillness, this packed potential before the beginning, which is the same thing that physics is telling us, this presence, right? It's this presence. The invisible presence. Physics just told us, the invisible presence that fills all of space. So what is a field? Well, imagine that you're standing in a swimming pool and the water is calm, but someone jumps in and you feel it after a bit because a ripple traveled across the water and pushed against you. The water carried the influence from there to here. So the water is the field, but you take away the water and everything, and that something, that presence is still there. The uniting invisible presence, that is the electromagnetic field. It is not made of atoms. It's not made of anything. You can't scoop it in a bucket, yet it's real. It carries movement, momentum, and it can push and pull things. And when something happens over here, a ripple travels through the field and affects something over there. And when the ripple is the right kind, we call it light. So another way to think of it is to think of a spider web strung between branches glistening with dew. The spider sits in the center waiting, and when the fly lands on the web, the spider doesn't see the fly right away, but it feels it because of the vibration. Right? So the vibration is the message. The web is the field. Now stretch that web out to infinity. Make it full of space in every direction, with every point connecting everywhere to every other point. And that's the rough picture of the electromagnetic field, except that it's not made of silk. And we have no clue what it's made of. It just is. It's the foundational ingredient of reality. So to restate this so that we can all understand it, there's an invisible something, presence, that fills all of space, and science calls it the electromagnetic field. When there is an electrical charge, it disturbs the field the way a pebble thrown into a pond disturbs the water, and that disturbance can reach out and push and pull on other charges. That's how magnets work, and that's how electricity works. So when the disturbance travels as a wave, it is light. So again, electricity and magnetism are the same force seen from different angles, just like the phoenix and the dragon and the yin and the yang and the Shiva and the Shakti. It's all names for the same thing. Just different stories attached to it to help us understand it a little bit better. So let's imagine that you have a wire with an electrical current flowing through it, and that is just electrons drifting along the wire. Now take a compass in your hand and look at which direction it's pointing at, and then you move it next to the wire, and you'll see how all of a sudden it points in a different direction. That's because of the current of electrons drifting along, forming a magnetic field across the wire. We all learned about this in school, and yet we don't learn why moving charges form magnetism. So again, let's suppose you have a magnet sitting still on a chair doing nothing. You walk past it, and from your point of view, you just move past the magnet. But from the magnet's point of view, it moved past you, which formed electricity. So when you look at things from a different frame of motion, you get a different mix of electricity and magnetism. Wow. And that's what Einstein figured out. That's what the I Ching is all about. All those different hexagrams are looking at a different frame of motion.
Wow. Of alignment of the waves. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. Electricity and magnetism are one thing viewed from different perspectives. So when you change the state of motion, and without motion, as we've said before, you can't have consciousness. So electricity and magnetism are motion viewed from different perspectives. So when we change our state of motion, what once looked like pure electricity becomes a mixture of electricity and magnetism. And what once looked like pure magnetism also becomes a mix of magnetism and electricity. They transform into each other to components of one single entity. which takes us to the Hermetic laws, which says that everything is, right? Everything is
Polar, dual.
Polarity, vibration, mind, consciousness, psyche, and rhythm, right? So all is polarity, which is pure interaction, tension between extremes that results in something new.
Yeah.
So the unification of electricity and magnetism is a deep truth about space-time, and it's also a mathematical convenience. So the electromagnetic field is a single presence living in four-dimensional space-time through everything we see and our motion.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine that you are holding a single electron, just one lonely electron in empty space. It has an electrical charge that forms an electrical field around it, spreading out in all directions, like quills on a porcupine, radiating radially outward. Now we shake the electron. You move it up and down, back and forth, and the field has to adjust because those lines have had to change their position to match the new location of the electron. The adjustment can't happen instantaneously, even though it moves outward at the speed of light. So let's paint this picture a little bit clearer. Imagine the electron sitting still. The electric field spreads out from it like spokes of a wheel, going in all directions and getting weaker with distance, yet not ever really zeroing out. Every point in space knows about that electron, and the field is just there waiting. Now you give the electron a push or a jiggle, and for a moment it moves a little and it returns. What happens to that point far away? Well, for a while, nothing, because the news of the electron's jiggle has not yet reached that point. And then when it does, at the speed of light, the field has to adjust and to point in a new direction. But then by then the electron has already moved back to where its starting point. So there's another new piece of news on its way, right? So the electromagnetic field swings back and forth, oscillating, which is, right, again, all is vibration, constant movement, change from the Hermetic principles.
Wow. So it's all the same thing, all unified.
Yes. So the electromagnet. So then this is where we get the pendulum, right? Everything is swinging back and forth, oscillating, vibrating, dancing to what happened at the source some time ago. The oscillation, the dance of the field is electromagnetic radiation. It's light and it's radio, the whole spectrum. So here's the most profound part. Once the ripple leaves the electron, it's on its own. It doesn't need the electron anymore. So I've seen a proposition, and we'll get into this in some point in the future, that we are all made of only one electron. There's only one electron. So once the ripple leaves the electron, it's on its own. It does not need the electron anymore. The wave propagates through space and is self-sustaining. The electric field forms the magnetic field that forms the electric field forever outward till it hits something. And that's how the sun can warm our face from 93 million miles away, because a long time ago, electrons in the sun jiggled, and those jiggles became waves, and those waves traveled for 8 minutes in and through the vacuum of space, needing nothing, touching nothing, and then arrived at Earth and juggled the electrons in our skin, and our skin warmed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So information, energy crossing the void carried by the field. The wave carries energy and momentum. That wave is light, and the light is not some separate thing nature invented for seeing. Light is what happens when we shake an electron. Light is a ripple in the electromagnetic field. The same field that makes magnets stick to refrigerators is the field that brings us the light of the distant stars. So you might ask, if I shake an electron and it makes light, then why don't I see the light coming off everything that moves? Well, we, you, me, we all do. We just haven't registered it. Everything that has an electric charge and accelerates emits electromagnetic radiation. That's our auras, right? So if you shake an electron gently, you get radio waves, long, lazy ripples. If you shake it faster, you get microwaves. If you shake it faster still, infrared. Faster still, visible light, the ultraviolet, and then X-rays, and then gamma rays. All are the same phenomena. The difference is how fast you shake the electron. So let's look at this more closely because it's really beautiful. Picture a piano keyboard. On the left are the low notes. On the right are the high notes, right? Now stretch that keyboard until it spans hundreds of miles. The leftmost keys, if you could hear them, would be radio waves, very low frequency. Billions of oscillations per second, but that's slow for an electromagnetic wave. Move up the keyboard and the wavelengths get shorter, the frequencies get higher. Then we pass through microwaves, the kind that heat our food, and then the infrared, the warmth we feel from a fire. And then in one tiny octave out of 100 is the visible light spectrum, the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. And then we keep going higher into ultraviolet, the light that gives us sunburn, and then X-rays, the kind that lets doctors see inside us, and then gamma, the nuclear reactions and cosmic explosions. It's all the same phenomenon, ripples or waves in the electromagnetic field. The thing that changes is the frequency or the speed. Our eyes are sensitive to only a slice of this spectrum. A radio antenna is sensitive to another slice, an X-ray detector to another, and yet the field, the entire oneness, doesn't know the difference. It's just all the same. What is remarkable is that there is no obvious reason that this spectrum should stop. It does not run out. It is continuous, and it is the unifying force of nature. The radio station antenna works this way. Electrons in the antenna are made to slide back and forth millions and billions of times each second. That shaking sends ripples through the field, and they spread out at the speed of light. When they reach your car radio antenna, they make electrons shake, and it gets converted into sound. So then you're listening. The reality is you're listening to electromagnetic waves that were formed far away from your car. You're not actually listening to a song, you're listening to electromagnetic waves.
Mm-hmm.
So a guy named Maxwell in the 1800s predicted the waves, and then Heinrich Hertz, a German physicist in the 1880s, built a device that could detect them based off of Maxwell's predictions, and he built another device that could form the waves. So he showed that they could be reflected, refracted, and polarized just like light. But Hertz said he didn't see any practical applications for the waves. They were simply interesting phenomena. And now his name appears repeatedly as the demarcation of the speed of the oscillation. That's why we mentioned him. And within a decade after that, his waves that he says saw no application for powered everything, right? So atoms are made of electrons and nuclei. The nucleus is positive and the electrons are negative. So why do they stick together and not fall apart or collapse into each other? The answer has to do with the electromagnetic field combined with quantum mechanics. The physicists of the 19th century said that if an electron orbits the nucleus like a planet orbits the sun, it should be spiraling inward and crash into the nucleus. So atoms should not exist. Yet they do. The wrongness of this picture led to quantum mechanics that now say electrons do not orbit in the classical sense. They exist in a probability cloud, and that prevents them from spiraling inward. The electromagnetic force is what tries to pull them inward. But the quantum physics theory philosophy stabilizes this situation. So when you sit on a chair and you don't fall through it, why? Well, why should we not fall through it? Well, the atoms of our body are mostly empty space, as are the atoms of the chair. So why should we not fall through it? If we're empty space, when we truly get this, if we're mostly empty space and the chair is empty space, why are we not just constantly falling through everything?
Mm-hmm.
If we could shrink ourselves small enough to look at an atom, we would see that the tiny nucleus surrounded by an electron cloud that is enormous. So the nucleus is like a fly in a cathedral. The cathedral is the electron cloud. The nucleus is the little fly flying through that electron cloud, right? So why does empty space not pass through empty space? Because at the microscopic level, when the electron clouds of our atoms get close to the electron clouds of the chair's atoms, they overlap, causing a pressure, a resistance to compression. And the force through is electromagnetic. And the force, though, is electromagnetic. The negative electrons repel each other, so the atoms never touch. What touches is the field.
Mhm.
So let's rephrase that for every Christian who thinks God is a white two-legged being. You're sitting on a chair, you're sitting on God. The electromagnetic force. That's what you're feeling.
Yeah.
The electromagnetic fields of the atoms interact, and that interaction gives us the sense of stability. Solidity. Every surface we have ever touched, every texture we have ever felt was our electron clouds interacting with other electron clouds through the magnetic field. Another example, when we walk across the floor, what keeps us from slipping? Friction. Friction is the electromagnetic interaction between the atoms of our shoe or our foot and the atoms of the floor. The surfaces are rough at the microscopic level. They are full of peaks and valleys because they're waves, right? And the electron clouds of the peaks interact, pushing, pulling, and catching on each other, and that is friction or electromagnetism at work. The chemical bond is the same thing. Why does water have a formation of H2O, not H3 or HO? Well, it's electrons, the way they arrange themselves, the way they're shared between atoms, because of the way electromagnetic forces balance out and chemistry is applied. Electromagnetism. Every molecule, every crystal, every protein in our body is held together by electromagnetic force. When we pick up a cup of coffee, we feel the heat of the coffee through the intermediary of the field. Let's say this again. When you pick up a cup of coffee and feel the heat, you're feeling God.
Mm-hmm.
When you hold hands with someone you love, the electrons in your skin are repelling theirs. Your atoms never come close to touching. What you feel is the force transmitted by the field. The feeling of warmth, of connection is electromagnetic. The tenderness, the sensation of contact, that is all the field. You are connected to the person you love through the same force that lights the stars and powers the sun. The same equations that describe lightning describe the touch of your hand on theirs. There is no distinction at the physical level between romantic and the cosmic. It's all electromagnetism. It's all the yin and yang, the Shiva and the Shakti. So our nervous system is electric. When we have a thought, it's because millions of neurons are firing and sending electrical signals. Our brain is an electrical machine. The process that gives rise to our conscious experience is electromagnetic. Our thoughts, memories, and dreams are all patterns of electrical activity in the neurons of our brain. Every experience we have is electromagnetic from start to finish. The chemical bonds that hold molecules together. The reason water is wet and steel is strong is electromagnetism. The reason we see, the reason our nerves fire, the reason our muscles contract, electromagnetism. Every breath, every movement we make, every breath we take is powered by electromagnetism. And when we think about it this way, we realize that everything we experience daily is electromagnetic. The equations that describe all of electromagnetism were written by Maxwell in the 1860s, and there are 4 equations. And from these 4, everything is derived. We've talked about the code of 4. There's right. Mm-hmm. There's 4 bases in our DNA. 4 is very important. So the behavior of magnets and the sparks from our fingers, the radio waves, everything are derived from these 4 equations. So number 1, equation 1, electric charges form electric fields. The field lines then start on positive and end on negative or go on to infinity. Equation 2, there are no magnetic monopoles. You cannot have a north pole without a south pole. Magnetic field lines form closed loops. They do not start or stop anywhere. And equation 3, a changing magnetic field forms an electrical field. So we could say the changing magnetic field is a yin and the electrical field is a yang, but then the yang gets changeable and forms into the magnetic field, the yin, right? So Michael Faraday took this equation further And this is how electric generators work. Spin a magnet near a wire and you get a current. Before Faraday, people thought about electricity and magnetism in terms of force acting across empty space. One charge pulls on another, instant and direct through nothing. And Faraday didn't like this philosophy. It didn't feel right to him. So he imagined that a magnet sends something out into space, filling the space around it, and that other magnets feel this something. He called them lines of force. And if you've ever seen iron filings that are sprinkled around a magnet and arrange themselves into beautiful curving patterns, that is what Faraday was imagining. And those patterns are God. Those patterns are the invisible field made visible. Faraday discovered then electromagnetic induction. He wrapped a coil of wire around one side of an iron ring, and I can only picture this as the coil of wire never touched the iron ring. It was just wrapped loosely around the iron ring. Then he did another one on the other side. They were not connected, and he connected the first coil loosely to a battery, and when he first turned it on, for an instant, the current flowed in the second coil. When he disconnected the battery, another current flowed in the opposite direction. But in between, as he left the battery connected and it was steady, there was nothing changing, right? Nothing happened in the second coil. When things change, however, when the current is shrinking or growing, the other coil responds. So a changing magnetic field forms an electrical field. The growing current in the first coil formed an electrical field in the second coil. And the electrical field pushed electrons and current flows. Once the magnetic field stops changing, however, the electrical field disappears. And this is a principle behind every electric generator ever built. Spin a magnet near a coil of wire. The magnetic field through the coil is constantly changing, first one direction and then the other. That changing field forms an electrical field and the current flows. So now you've converted mechanical motion into electricity. Every power plant, every windmill, and every hydroelectric dam works on this principle that Faraday discovered. Equation 4. Electric currents form magnetic fields, and so do changing electric fields. This was Maxwell's insight that allows electromagnetic waves to exist. He saw that a changing electrical field acts like a current that forms a magnetic field. And so he called this the displacement current. When he added this term, out popped a wave equation that predicted that the disturbances in electric and magnetic fields would propagate through space as waves. And when he calculated the speed of the waves from the known properties of electricity and magnetism, he got 300,000 kilometers per second, the speed of light measured by astronomers looking at the moons of Jupiter. So when Maxwell tidied up the equations of electricity and magnetism, light fell out. The same equations that describe how magnets attract and batteries push also describes how light travels through space. So he wrote that the agreement of the results seemed to show that light itself is an electromagnetic disturbance in the form of waves propagated according to the principles of electromagnetism. And every experiment done by science since then has confirmed what he wrote. So per the equations, we have a changing magnetic field that forms an electric field, which as it changes forms a magnetic field. So the two fields are not separate at all. They just keep regenerating each other, leapfrogging through space at the speed of light. And the wave sustains itself. It does not need waves or any other matter. It just goes. So for centuries, physicists assumed there had to be something for light to wave in, some substance from space called ether. Experiments have proven that there is no such substance. Light simply waves in nothing, or it waves in the electromagnetic field, which is made of nothing fundamental. Same difference. We can call it nothing, or we can call it the electromagnetic field. So when Maxwell calculated the speed of electromagnetic waves and got a number that matched the speed of light, that was a unification. Right? Before Maxwell, we had electricity, magnetism, and optics as three separate branches of physics. After Maxwell, they were one. This is the power of physics, to take things that seem different and show that they are really the same, to find the hidden unity behind the diversity. And the electromagnetic field is one such unity. So what is a field made of? Well, we don't know. Nobody knows. It's just there. It's simply a fundamental aspect of nature. It's that presence, that stillness. Right? In quantum field theory, we find the electromagnetic field as being capable of existing in different quantum states. The ripples in the field, when you look at them, quantum mechanically become discrete packets or photons, and light is made of photons. But photons are not a little ball flying through space as we imagine them. They're just simply an excitation of the electromagnetic field, a unit of disturbance that is still the field. The electromagnetic field carries momentum or energy. So when light shines on you, it pushes you or it pulls you. The pressure is too small to feel, but it's there. Sunlight pushes the earth, and it can do this because the electromagnetic field has momentum. Think about this. Mm-hmm. Something that has no mass, travels at the speed of light, has momentum, and can push on things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is God. It's not a two-legged human being in the sky. This is the puzzle so many have worked through, and the answer lies in the energy of the field. Where there is energy, there is then something like mass. Thanks to Einstein's equation of energy equals mass, E equals mc squared, right? The energy of a beam of light acts like a tiny mass and gives it momentum. So when a photon bounces off a mirror, it actually transfers momentum to the mirror, and the mirror actually recoils slightly, and this is called radiation pressure, and it keeps the tail of a comet pointing away from the sun. Because the sunlight pushes on the tiny particles of dust, and even though they are receding, the pressure of the light sculpts the tail of the comet. So is it the pressure of the light that sculpts our bodies? Mm-hmm. You know? The energy stored in the electromagnetic fields is immense. The light from the sun travels 93 million miles in 8 minutes and still has enough energy to warm our face and power photosynthesis. So where was that energy during those 8 minutes? Well, it was in the electromagnetic field, traveling through space. The energy density of the electromagnetic field can be calculated. Near a lightning bolt, the fields are intense, and so is the energy. Near a radio transmitter, it's less so. Everywhere there is a field, there is energy. So the universe is filled with a low hum of electromagnetic radiation that fills all of space. It's about 2.7% above absolute zero, everywhere, all the time. So the entire universe glows, not brightly enough to be seen, but it's detectable. That's why we have an aura. That glow is the electromagnetic field carrying the echo of the birth of the cosmos. So why does this matter? Why should we care about the electromagnetic field? Well, number one, because we're made of it. Mm-hmm. The force that holds our atoms together. Why should we care about the yin-yang, the Shiva, the Shakti? Because it's what we're made of, yin-yang, Shiva, Shakti. Force that holds our atoms together, that holds our molecules in shape and lets our heart beat and our neurons fire is electromagnetic or yin-yang, Shiva, Shakti. To understand, number two, to understand electromagnetism is to understand at a deep level why matter behaves the way it does. And number three, because our entire civilization runs on it. Electricity, electronics, radio, TV, computers, the internet, cell phones, medical imaging, they're all applications of the yin-yang, electromagnetism. Maxwell and Faraday's equations from 150 years or so ago are the operating system of our modern world. Number four, because electromagnetism is one of the four fundamental forces of nature, and to understand it teaches you to think about waves and particles, the deep structure of reality. And it's a model for understanding the other three forces, which are the weak force, the strong force, and gravity, all of which are fields. Number 5, electromagnetism teaches us that the world is not as it appears to be, even though we feel and see solid surfaces and objects at the deepest level. They are only fields interacting that gives rise to everything we experience. The solidity is purely an illusion, a manifestation of electromagnetic repulsion at short distances. The colors we see are just different frequencies of the electromagnetic waves. The warmth we feel is electromagnetic energy. So we evolved in an environment of medium-sized objects moving at medium speed, and our senses are adapted to that environment. We did not evolve to see the electromagnetic field directly or think about things rippling through space at the speed of light. We have to learn that. And when we do, the world opens up, and that's what shamanism is about. That's what Don Juan, Carlos Castaneda's teacher, was talking about. Right? Seeing beyond ordinary reality. Most of the electromagnetic spectrum is invisible to us. Radio waves are passing through us right now, and we can't feel them. UV light from the sun hits our skin, and we are blind to it. We live in a symphony of fields, and we don't know it. Right? We know UV light hits our skin hours later when we feel the burn. And we can only hear a few of the notes of the symphony of the fields. And we can extend our senses. That's what shamanism is all about. That's why people do hallucinogenics. That's why we drink alcohol, to extend our senses. We are all embedded in the same web and in touch with everything and everyone else in the universe that has an electric charge. The information of 1,000 conversations is passing through us right now. The electromagnetic field is the invisible scaffolding of reality. So think about that. Let's go stop at that for a minute. The information of 1,000 conversations is passing through us right now. So are our thoughts really our own?
Nope.
Yeah. The electromagnetic field is the invisible scaffolding of reality. That's why it's important. It is the carrier of light and the enforcer of chemistry. So the next time you stick a magnet to your fridge or turn on a light or feel the warmth of the sun, remember you're playing with that field. You're disturbing that web. You're participating in the great electromagnetic dance that has been going on for eons. And number 6 is the realm of God. And when you know that your true nature is an emanation of this presence, then we no longer require the gods of our world, like police and judges and lawyers and all the politicians, presidents. We would no longer then suffer their wars, their economies, or the social infrastructure of isolation and misery imposition. And then the power structures that bleed humanity dry could vanish, because when we realize that we are manifestations of this eternal field, we stop begging for scraps and start living like free people.
Yeah.
And for tonight, that's where we're going to stop, because that was pretty much a lot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, it's a lot. It's everything. It's it's too much. It's not enough, and it's all said within one.
And that's
study.
cosmic laws. That's the basis of the Hermetic principles, right? And that's physics teaching us. That's science teaching us.
Yeah. So, are we gonna have a plant for today?
No.
Straight into Arts of the Bedchamber, or are we done?
No, we're just going to end with that tonight.
Okay, yeah, that was quite a load of
yeah, that's what I figured. So next week, we're going to go into have you ever noticed when you fall asleep, you twitch?
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about that. Why our brain thinks we're falling out of a tree every time we go to sleep.
Wow, I've always wanted to know that. It's so fun. That's
so
amazing.
And then we'll go into amaranth.
Okay.
Specifically red amaranth. That was
Yeah.
from the Aztecs.
Yeah, you have
And then
promised.
the Taoist starts of the bedchamber.
Okay.
So.
Alrighty, so it's gonna be a very fun one. I hope this was a fun one for Owl Freedom Teachings. This is Julian Catari. This was Blue Heron Woman with this investigation. Please join us. We have every Wednesday at 8:45 Central Standard Time. We have this live show. Otherwise, let us know if you saw it recorded or if you have any questions. Some people have questions on the reels, so we invite them to join us in the live streams and the videos, which are more appropriate to ask questions, and where, of course, they would have to listen to the whole thing, because shorts are just little clips of what we've talked about. So welcome everyone, and you can also join us in this quest to be trained to train together into the Aloha Ini Dao living with these Owl Freedom teachings at alohainidaoliving.com. And otherwise, we hope you are one step closer to your freedom and to your wholeness. Wishing you the best. We'll see you next week.